What happens when a voice that has healed millions suddenly trembles? Not from emotion in song, but from raw, unfiltered frustration. Live on daytime television, with cameras rolling, an audience holding its breath, and one of the most outspoken hosts in America refusing to back down. Before you blink, before anyone can cut to commercial, a polite conversation fractures into something far more dangerous, a moment no publicist could contain. Before we dive in, subscribe to the Truth Narrator right now, hit that like button, and drop a comment if you're ready for stories that expose what really happens when the spotlight turns unforgiving. The studio lights of The View glowed warmer than usual that morning, bathing the set in a soft, deceptive calm. Adele sat poised on the couch, hands folded neatly in her lap, her signature composure wrapped around her like armor. She wore a faint smile, the kind perfected over years of interviews, red carpets, and relentless scrutiny. To the audience, she looked relaxed. To the cameras, she looked gracious. But inside, something else stirred. She could feel it already. That subtle tightening in her chest. That instinct that whispered, "This won't stay polite for long." Whoopi Goldberg leaned back in her chair, chin slightly raised, eyes sharp behind her glasses. She wasn't smiling. Not yet. Whoopi had hosted thousands of conversations, weathered storms of controversy, dismantled politicians with a raised eyebrow. She thrived on tension. And today, something about Adele's recent comments, about fame, privacy, and the emotional cost of being constantly dissected, had struck a nerve. The conversation began smoothly enough. Laughter rippled through the audience as Adele joked about touring, about missing home, about the absurdity of hearing her own songs in grocery stores. The crowd loved her. They always did. Applause came easily, generously. Adele nodded, appreciative, but her eyes occasionally flicked toward Whoopi. She sensed the shift before it arrived. "So Adele," Whoopi said, her voice calm but edged with something firmer, "you've talked a lot about stepping back from the spotlight. But you chose this life, didn't you?" Adele blinked once. "Just once." "I did," she replied softly. "But choosing to sing doesn't mean choosing to be torn apart." A murmur swept the audience. Whoopi leaned forward now, elbows on the desk. "But fame comes with responsibility. People look up to you. You can't just disappear when it gets uncomfortable." Adele's smile thinned. Inside her head, thoughts collided. Years of tabloid headlines, invasive questions, the pressure to be grateful even when she was breaking. She inhaled slowly. "I'm not disappearing," she said. "I'm protecting myself." Whoopi's eyebrow lifted. "From what?" "Criticism." That word landed heavier than it should have. Adele shifted in her seat. Her fingers tightened together. "From being treated like I'm not human," she said, voice steady but lower now. "From being told my pain is the price of my success." The studio felt smaller. Even the lights seemed harsher. One of the co-hosts glanced nervously between them, sensing the temperature rising. The audience grew quiet, applause replaced by anticipation. Whoopi crossed her arms. A lot of people deal with criticism without the luxury of millions of dollars. And there it was. The line. The invisible boundary crossed. Adele's breath caught. For a split second, the world narrowed. The audience, the cameras, the buzzing studio, all fading behind the echo of that sentence. Luxury. As if money erased anxiety. As if success anesthetized loneliness. "I'm really tired of that narrative," Adele said, her British accent sharpening with emotion. "Money doesn't make you bulletproof. It doesn't stop you from crying at night or questioning your worth." Whoopi didn't flinch. "But it does give you options most people don't have." A ripple of gasps fluttered through the crowd. Adele shook her head, disbelief flickering across her face. "So because I'm successful, I'm not allowed to struggle? Is that what you're saying?" The silence was deafening. Whoopi paused, then replied, "I'm saying accountability matters." That was it. Adele straightened, her calm finally cracking. "Accountability for what?" she asked, voice rising. "For feeling overwhelmed? For being honest?" Her hands moved now, emotion breaking through restraint. "I've spent years apologizing for existing too loudly, for feeling too deeply, for not fitting into the box people made for me." The audience shifted, some nodding, others stunned. A few claps erupted before quickly dying down. Whoopi held her gaze. "You're a role model. And I take that seriously," Adele shot back. "Which is why I refuse to pretend I'm fine when I'm not." The air felt electric. Producers backstage exchanged panicked looks. This wasn't on the rundown. This wasn't rehearsed. This was real. Adele's voice softened, but the intensity didn't fade. "I came here to talk about my music. Not to be told my feelings are invalid, because I've been lucky. Whoopi exhaled through her nose, a tight smile appearing. Luck isn't the word I'd use. Adele laughed once, short, humorless. Of course not. The audience reacted audibly now, whispers, murmurs, tension spilling into sound. Adele leaned forward, eyes glistening but unbroken. You know what's hardest? She said quietly. Being expected to be grateful while you're drowning. For the first time, Whoopi hesitated. The camera zoomed slightly, capturing Adele's expression, raw, exposed, defiant. This wasn't the Adele of polished performances and controlled interviews. This was someone pushed too far. And as the seconds stretched, everyone watching knew one thing. This moment was no longer just an interview. It was a collision. And it was only just beginning. The silence after Adele's last words didn't feel empty. It felt loaded, like a held breath stretched to its breaking point. Somewhere in the audience, a woman cleared her throat. A camera operator shifted his stance. The red live light blinked steadily, indifferent to the emotional storm brewing beneath it. Whoopi leaned back in her chair, fingers tapping once against the desk. Her expression wasn't angry. It was measured, calculating. No one's saying your feelings don't matter, she said slowly, each word placed with care. But when you speak publicly, when millions listen, those feelings become part of a larger conversation. Adele swallowed. Her throat felt tight now, as if the words were pushing against something fragile inside her. I know that, she replied. I live with that weight every single day. Whoopi tilted her head. Then you understand why people react. Adele let out a long breath through her nose, shaking her head. Reacting is one thing, she said. Reducing someone's pain to entitlement is another. The audience responded with a low, collective murmur. A few people nodded vigorously. Others sat frozen, unsure which side of history this moment would belong to. One of the co-hosts leaned in gently, voice tentative. Maybe what Adele's saying is that. But Whoopi raised a hand, not aggressively, just enough to pause the interruption. Her eyes never left Adele. Let her finish, she said. Adele looked surprised by that, then grateful. She straightened her shoulders, summoning a strength she'd learned the hard way. I grew up not having much, she said. I didn't come from comfort. So when people tell me I should be quiet because I have money now, it feels like they're erasing where I came from and everything I survived to get here. Her voice cracked on the last word. The crack echoed louder than any shout. The audience gasped softly. A few claps broke out, hesitant at first, then stronger. The studio felt divided now, not hostile, but charged, split between empathy and expectation. Whoopi nodded once, slowly. And I respect that, she said. Truly. But fame isn't just about you anymore. Adele's eyes flickered. That's the problem, she said. It's always about everyone else. A ripple of tension ran through the room. Whoopi leaned forward again, her voice firmer now. When you talk about stepping away, when you criticize the machine that lifted you, people hear rejection. Adele laughed, but there was pain in it. I didn't ask to be lifted by a machine, she said. I asked to sing. The audience reacted louder this time, applause, mixed with scattered cheers. Adele's chest rose and fell faster now. She could feel the emotion threatening to spill, but she refused to look away. I love my fans, she continued. But loving people doesn't mean sacrificing yourself until there's nothing left. Whoopi's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. A lot of people would trade places with you in a heartbeat. That sentence hit harder than any before. Adele's expression changed. The vulnerability hardened into something sharper. That doesn't mean they'd survive it, she said. The audience erupted, this time unmistakably. Applause thundered through the studio, some people even standing. A producer's voice crackled faintly through an earpiece backstage. We're losing control. Whoopi raised her eyebrows, waiting for the noise to die down. When it did, she spoke, her tone calm but unyielding. This isn't personal, Adele. It's perspective. Adele nodded slowly. And this, she said, gesturing between them, is mine. The co-hosts exchanged looks. One of them smiled nervously, trying to inject levity. Well, this is definitely a passionate conversation. But passion had already spilled into confrontation. Whoopi folded her hands together. You've spoken about mental health, she said. About boundaries. But when people push back, you seem surprised. Adele leaned forward now, mirroring Whoopi's posture. I'm not surprised, she said. I'm exhausted. That word hung in the air, heavy, undeniable. For years, Adele continued, I smiled through interviews while strangers picked apart my body, my relationships, my motherhood. I laughed it off because that's what was expected. Her eyes glistened again. But the moment I say, "This hurts," suddenly I'm ungrateful. The audience fell silent. Even Whoopi didn't interrupt. "I'm not asking for sympathy," Adele said. "I'm asking for humanity." Whoopi exhaled, adjusting her glasses. Humanity goes both ways. Adele's lips pressed together. "Then let's practice it." For a moment, it seemed like Whoopi might soften. Her gaze dropped briefly to the desk, then returned to Adele. "Fair enough," she said. "But understand this. When you speak, you influence how others view struggle." Adele nodded. "Exactly. And if someone like me, who has it all, admits they're struggling, maybe someone watching at home feels less alone." A hush fell over the studio. That landed differently. Even the cameras seemed to linger longer, capturing the weight of the statement. A woman in the audience wiped her eyes. Another nodded slowly, hands clasped together. Whoopi paused. The tension didn't vanish, but it shifted. Less combative, more complicated. "That's a powerful point," she admitted. Adele relaxed just slightly, sensing the crack in the wall. "That's all I've ever tried to say." But the calm didn't last. Whoopi straightened again, voice returning to its familiar firmness. "Still," she said, "public figures don't get to control the narrative." Adele sighed. Neither should they be crushed by it. The audience murmured again, divided but engaged. Producers whispered urgently. The clock ticked closer to commercial break, but no one dared interrupt. Because everyone knew this wasn't over. Not yet. The air still buzzed with unresolved emotion, with words unsaid and lines not yet crossed. And as Adele met Whoopi's gaze once more, there was a sense that whatever came next would either heal the fracture or shatter it completely. The moment before everything tipped felt strangely quiet, like the stillness before a storm finally decides where to land. The audience could sense it. The co-hosts could sense it. Even Adele, breathing slow and deliberate, knew the ground beneath the conversation was cracking. Whoopi glanced toward the clock, then back at Adele. "We're running out of time," she said, voice steady. "So let me ask you this plainly." Adele's jaw tightened. "Go on." "When you push back against public scrutiny," Whoopi continued, "do you consider how that sounds to people who don't have the option to step away?" A ripple of discomfort moved through the crowd. Adele blinked, absorbing the question, but something in her eyes darkened. Not anger, not sadness, but a deep, simmering fatigue. "I don't step away because I can," she said quietly. "I step away because I have to." Whoopi's lips pressed together. "A lot of people have to endure things they don't want to." Adele nodded slowly. "And that makes it right?" The audience reacted instantly. Sharp inhales, whispered ohs, a few claps that were quickly swallowed by tension. One of the co-hosts shifted in her chair, clearly uncomfortable now. Whoopi's voice hardened just a touch. "Life isn't fair." Adele's composure finally fractured. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, eyes locked on Whoopi. "I know that better than most," she said. "But unfairness doesn't mean silence." Her voice grew stronger, steadier, fueled by something deeper than the conversation itself. "Every time someone like me speaks up, it's framed as complaining. But when we stay quiet, the same people ask why we didn't say something sooner." The audience erupted, applause rolling like thunder across the studio. This time, it didn't fade quickly. It lingered, swelling, forcing Whoopi to wait. Adele straightened as the clapping died down. "You asked if I consider others," she said. "I do. Constantly. That's why I talk about this. Because if I don't, nothing changes." Whoopi tilted her head, studying her. "Change doesn't come from discomfort alone." Adele's laugh escaped before she could stop it. "Neither does progress." The tension snapped tighter. A producer waved frantically from off-camera, signaling for a break. Whoopi noticed and ignored it. "You're challenging the very system that supports you," Whoopi said. "That's a dangerous game." Adele's eyes flashed. "So is pretending it doesn't hurt." The audience gasped audibly. One woman covered her mouth. Someone else whispered, "Wow." Adele took a breath, clearly trying to rein herself in, but the dam had cracked. "Do you know how many nights I've sat alone wondering if I'm allowed to feel this way?" she asked. "Wondering if success means I forfeited the right to be human?" Her voice trembled now, not weak but raw. "Because that's what people tell you. Smile. Sing. Be grateful. Don't complain." Whoopi's expression shifted, just for a second. A flicker of recognition. Then it vanished. "You're not the only one held to expectations." Adele nodded. "But I'm the one sitting here being told my pain has conditions." The audience fell into stunned silence. Even the air seemed to stop moving. One of the co-hosts finally broke in, voice gentle. Adele, are you saying? I'm saying I'm done apologizing, Adele said, cutting in. Not harshly, decisively. I've apologized for my body, for my voice, for my success, for my sadness. She looked directly into the camera now, no longer just speaking to Whoopi, but to everyone watching at home. And I won't do it anymore. The studio erupted again, louder than before. Applause, cheers, a few people standing. This wasn't polite clapping. This was release. Whoopi waited, face unreadable. When the noise finally subsided, she spoke, slower this time. That's a strong stance. It has to be, Adele replied, because being palatable almost broke me. That sentence landed like a punch. Whoopi inhaled deeply, then exhaled. You know, she said, when you're in this business long enough, you learn that vulnerability gets weaponized. Adele nodded. I'm aware. Then why offer it so freely? Adele didn't hesitate. Because the alternative is disappearing. The audience murmured, absorbing the weight of that choice. Whoopi leaned back, folding her arms. You don't seem like someone disappearing. Adele smiled sadly. You'd be surprised how invisible you can feel when everyone thinks they own you. Silence returned, heavier now. The cameras zoomed out slightly, capturing the entire panel, the divided faces, the charged posture, the unresolved tension. A producer's voice finally cut through the earpieces. We're going to break. Whoopi nodded once, reluctantly. We'll continue this after the break, she said to the camera. But Adele shook her head gently. I don't think we will. Whoopi turned to her. Why not? Because, Adele said, standing slowly. I've said what I needed to say. The audience gasped collectively. No one stood on the view unplanned. Not like this. Whoopi looked up at her, surprised now. You're leaving? Adele met her gaze, calm but resolute. I'm choosing myself. The audience erupted into chaos, applause mixed with shocked whispers. Cameras scrambled. Co-hosts exchanged panicked looks. Adele adjusted her jacket, then paused, looking back at Whoopi one last time. I respect you, she said sincerely. But respect doesn't mean endurance. For a moment, Whoopi said nothing. Then, quietly, I hear you. Adele nodded once, then turned toward the exit as the cameras struggled to keep up. And as she walked off that stage, heels echoing softly against the studio floor, everyone watching knew they weren't witnessing a walkout. They were witnessing a line being drawn. And whatever came next would not stay contained within those walls. The studio didn't exhale when Adele disappeared behind the curtain. If anything, the air grew heavier, saturated with the awareness that something irreversible had just happened. Whoopi remained seated, hands folded, eyes fixed on the space Adele had occupied only seconds earlier. The applause faded into an uneasy quiet, the kind that follows a shock no one quite knows how to process. Well, one of the co-hosts finally said, forcing a brittle smile, that was a powerful conversation. Whoopi nodded slowly. Yes, she replied, her voice calm but distant. It was. The camera cut to commercial, but the moment didn't end there. It couldn't. Not after a walk-off like that. Not after words that raw had been spoken live, without a safety net. Backstage, Adele leaned against a wall, eyes closed, one hand pressed against her chest as if grounding herself. Her breathing was unsteady, not panicked but released. Like someone who had finally set down a weight she'd been carrying for years. A producer approached, hesitant. Are you okay? They asked. Adele opened her eyes. I am now, she said simply. Inside the studio, Whoopi adjusted her glasses as the lights dimmed for the break. A staff member whispered something in her ear. She nodded, expression unreadable. Years in television had trained her well, how to sit with discomfort, how to weather backlash. Still, even she could feel it. That ripple spreading outward. The moment escaping the room. By the time the show returned from commercial, social media was already ablaze. Clips flooded timelines at lightning speed. Adele's voice, I'm done apologizing, looped endlessly. Headlines began to form in real time, each one sharper than the last. Adele walks off the view. On-air clash leaves audience stunned. Whoopi Goldberg faces pushback after heated exchange. Fans chose sides with ferocity. Some praised Adele's honesty, calling her brave, human, overdue. Others accused her of entitlement, echoing the very arguments that had ignited the confrontation. Comment sections became battlegrounds. Empathy collided with expectation. Vulnerability collided with power. Within minutes, celebrities weighed in. Musicians tweeted heart emojis and messages of support. Actors posted cryptic lines about boundaries and burnout. Mental health advocates shared clips with captions about visibility and courage. At the same time, critics dissected Adele's words frame by frame, tone by tone, searching for flaws. The conversation expanded beyond the show, beyond Adele and Whoopi. It became about fame, about labor, about who gets to be tired and who doesn't. Inside the studio, Whoopi addressed the audience directly. "These conversations are never easy," she said. "But they're necessary." Her words were measured, careful. Still, the tension lingered. Some applauded. Others sat silent, processing what they'd witnessed. Hours later, Adele broke her silence. Not with a rant, not with a rebuttal, but with a single post. No filters. No polish. Just words. "I spoke from the heart today," it read. "And while it wasn't easy, it was honest. Thank you to anyone who listened." Nothing more. That restraint only fueled the fire. News outlets replayed the segment on a loop. Panels debated whether Adele had overreacted or finally said what needed to be said. Psychologists were invited on air to analyze the exchange. Media critics questioned daytime television's role in pushing guests to emotional breaking points. Behind the scenes, producers scrambled. Calls were made. Statements drafted and redrafted. The word unprecedented was used more than once. Whoopi, for her part, remained quiet. No immediate response. No tweet. Just silence. That silence spoke volumes. The next day, Adele was photographed arriving at a studio, head held high, expression calm. No sign of regret. Fans gathered outside, some holding signs that read "Thank you for speaking up, and you're human too." Meanwhile, The View opened its next episode with a disclaimer about respectful dialogue. The audience applauded, but the applause felt different now, more cautious, more aware. And somewhere between the applause and the outrage, something shifted. People began sharing their own stories. Teachers, nurses, single parents, office workers, people who felt unseen, unheard, expected to endure without complaint. Adele's words had cracked something open. Not perfectly, not cleanly, but undeniably. "I've never seen myself in a celebrity before today," one comment read. "That moment made me feel less weak," said another. Of course, the backlash didn't disappear. It never does. But it no longer owned the narrative. Adele didn't return to the show. Whoopi didn't issue an apology. And maybe that was the point. Not every story ends in reconciliation. Some end in reflection. What remained was the moment itself, messy, uncomfortable, human. A reminder that even icons have limits. That even legends reach a breaking point. And that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do on live television is stand up and walk away. Now it's your turn. What do you think really happened in that moment? Was Adele right to draw the line? Or did Whoopi ask the questions no one else would? Drop your opinion in the comments. I want to hear your truth. And if you want more explosive, emotional, behind-the-scenes stories like this, subscribe now to The Truth Narrator. Like the video, share it with someone who needs to see it, and stay with us, because the real stories are always deeper than the headlines.